Welcome to the Buick Outdoors Podcast. I'm your host, Sheldon Marion, and on this podcast, we dive deep into the outdoors. We discuss hunting and fishing techniques, give you tips and tricks, tell stories, and everything in between to help you enjoy the outdoors. This podcast is brought to you by Northbound Gear. Northbound Gear makes some incredible pants. For me, I got two favorites. Their Adventurer pants and their waterproof jeans are my favorite. The Adventurer pants, they're cut resistance, they're waterproof, and they're lined. They also have like a stretchy waist to them, so they're incredibly comfortable. And then the jeans are waterproof, and they're also lined as well, so they keep you nice and warm during the colder months. I basically wear Northbound Gear right around, October, September-ish kind of area, all the way until about May. In the summer months, the lined pants are a little bit too warm, but during those months, I wear some of their other lighter, thinner pants that they make as well. If you want to give these guys a try, head over to northboundgear.co, use promo code Sheldon15 at checkout, and you'll receive 15% off. And to top that up, Northbound Gear, they also work with One Tree Planted. So for every purchase that you make, you plant one tree. So head over to northboundgear.co, use promo code Sheldon15, get yourself some good gear. Well, welcome back to another Buick Outdoors podcast. Today, before we get into the podcast, what I'm going to be doing is I'm actually going to be taking the pin out of my hat. This is something that, if you guys watch the YouTube channel, you would have seen this pin in my hat for, it's been a little while now. Basically what happened was a friend of ours here in town, she ended up getting cancer. The town kind of came together, put on this great big fundraiser for her, raised a bunch of money for her and her family and all that stuff. And there they had these pins and a couple of little bracelets and stuff. So I took the pin, threw it in my hat, and I said, I'm going to wear that just to show support, help her out or whatever, until she beats cancer. And a couple of days ago, she was at her chemo treatment, and it was her last one. So she got to come out, ring the bell, and yeah, she's finally done her fight here. So far, she's beat cancer, and yeah, it's pretty cool to say. And I can finally remove this pin off my hat. It's one of those weird things where, I mean, I didn't really do anything, for being honest. I had a little piece of painted metal on the side of my hat, but for people going through the difficult times and stuff, seeing something like that, it does help, kind of like mentally, kind of a deal. But yeah, hopefully that is the last time I'll ever have to wear a little pin on my hat. Unfortunately, in this day and age, it most likely won't be the last time. Cancer kind of runs rampant right now. So, but anyways, that that's the story of the pin. I didn't really want to do it on camera and make a big story out of it and all that stuff, because I don't know, to me it seems like I'm kind of trying to monetize somebody's hardships, kind of thing. But I know a lot of people, they watch the channel and stuff like that. If they see the pin is all of a sudden missing and gone, they'll have a lot of questions. So I figured I'll just say it now, just kind of get it done and over with. But yeah, there we go. Pin's out of the hat. She beat cancer, and she's doing good. So now that we get that all done, we're slowly getting into springtime. Geez, I think bear, it opens up in like 2 months. April 1st we get bear season up here. I usually don't see bears until about May, but whatever, they open up the season a little early. But with that, I'm starting to think about this year's hunting season. And one thing that I want to do this year is I kind of want to get back into bow hunting. Throughout my whole life, I've always shot bows. I've never really hunted much with them. I think even now, I've taken a couple of deer and a bear with my bow. And I think with us, because our opportunities are so short around here, I end up just using a gun, just because that way, if I seen something and I got close enough, your chances aren't guaranteed, but your success rate is much higher using a rifle compared to a bow. But now, I'm kind of taking a step back. I'm slowing down, and I'm kind of just enjoying the hunt more or less. Plus, I'm also making, at my job, I make enough money where if I don't shoot something, it's I can go to the store and I can buy, ground burger and the odd steak here and there and a roast kind of thing. Where back in the day, if I didn't shoot something, I never went hungry, obviously, but yeah, it was a lot more expensive to buy the meat instead of just hunting. Plus, back then, I hunted in basically my backyard. I didn't really have to go anywhere for it. But yeah, with bows, as a kid, I shot PSE quite a bit, and then when was that? 2010 or 2011? I bought my first brand new bow. It was a APA King Cobra. At the time, APA was new on the market, and they really made a big wave. It's a brand new Canadian company. At the time, it was the fastest bow you could buy. So the fast bow thing, that kind of got me because in my mind, I'm like a Weatherby fanatic where like velocity kills. So that really sold me. And then also being a Canadian company, you just couldn't say no to it, kind of a thing. But now, so I mean, like the bow is, so, I mean, relatively speaking, it's not that old, but it's getting up there. Like it still shoots and still works good. But it's one of those things where once you've had something for long enough, you either fall in love with it or you just kind of get tired of it, and that's kind of where I am with this APA bow. And like I said, like nothing wrong with it. I just I'm just kind of done with it. I'm bored with this toy. There is some design flaws to it though too. Mainly just the handle. It's a solid aluminum frame, carbon fiber limbs, and it works great, and it is top notch. I'm not bashing APA or King Cobra at all, but the handle is aluminum, and then there's also a carrying handle, and that's aluminum as well. And it's one of those things where in July, if you're shooting it in your backyard, you'll never have a problem with it. But as soon as it goes cold, that frame gets like incredibly cold. And then now with recent issues, if my hands get cold at all, they just kind of turn white and go numb. So it's a double whammy. Like I already didn't like using that APA basically in the fall, and now I kind of, in a sense, almost can't use it. Before it used to be uncomfortable, and now it's just like I wouldn't say dangerous, but yeah, it's definitely worse now than what it was, and it was already pretty bad. I know there is some things you can do, like you know, tape or rubber or something like that, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just being arrogant, but it just irks me that it gets so cold. You shouldn't have to spend $1,500 on a bow, and then the first thing you do is start customizing it just so you can hold it in the winter. You're not customizing it to tweak it to be a little bit better, a little bit faster, hit harder, be more accurate, anything like that. It's just the physical need to, like just being able to hold it when it's chilly sucks. Like you have to wear gloves, otherwise your hands will just go numb. It's brutal. But with that being said, I still love shooting it. But now I think I'm going to be looking for a different bow. And it's one of those things where this day and age, whether you spend a bunch of money or you buy a real cheap one, there's still good bows. Like the ready to hunt packages you can get for like 500 or 600 bucks. I mean, those ones compared to my whatever bow from 2010, I bet you it's almost identical, like performance wise. Even though when I bought mine, it was a $1,200 bow. Nowadays though, like things are made so good that even the quote unquote cheap ones that aren't good are still like phenomenal things. You say the same thing with like budget rifles, which is like a whole other conversation. But when it comes to these bow packages now, and it doesn't really necessarily matter which brand you buy either. It's kind of like buying a truck. They're all good. You pick the one that has the nicest looking color or the comfiest seats. And other than that, they all have little tweaks here and there. They all have their problems. They all have, those slight little issues. But in general, they all work fine. And especially for guys like regular outdoorsmen like me and you kind of thing, we don't need that latest and greatest Matthews or Hoyt or whatever. Like, is it like if you use a bow that's $400 and you shoot it and it shoots good and you're like, hey, yeah, you know what? This will work. This will kill a deer. This will kill a bear or whatever. It's no big deal, and it shoots and it shoots nice. If you go out and you shoot like that $1,600 bow, it does shoot slightly better. It is slightly quieter, but at the end of the day, it's the draw is just the same. The poundage is the same. It might be a little bit more smooth, or there might be a little more hold on it. It's like those minor little details that if you're like an incredibly serious person, then yeah, those small little details, they do add up and they do make a big difference. But if you're someone like, me and you kind of thing, you will notice the differences, but you're not gonna go, boy, I wish I would have spent another $1,000 to make this go away. You know what I mean? Like, it's for the amount that guys like us use and shoot and hunt with them, man. Like those ready to hunt packages are gonna work. Once in a while though, you will want to adjust some things. Like typically, the arrow rests are usually like it's kind of black and white. It's either yeah, it'll work, or it's like total complete garbage, trash, whatever. Like get rid of it. Like don't even sell me the bow with that on it, kind of a deal. When that happens, I mean the arrow rest that you can get, you can buy like the whisker biscuits for like $35. And I mean, like, there are pros and cons to it. Some people say, they slow down your arrow, they deflect it, and yada yada. But I mean, like, for the most part, again, if you're just a typical guy that's just going to be using it for, a deer hunt or a bear hunt or just shooting it in your yard, the whisker biscuit's perfectly fine. There's slightly different ones where instead of it being a big circle, it kind of comes like in a 3-point contact kind of a deal. And they work good. And then like the big things now are like the drop away rests. And even with them, uh, if you're a real serious guy and you really like that minute difference kind of thing, maybe spending $200 to $300 on a new rest might kind of be up your alley. But again, the regular typical guys like me and you, the average Joes, is not going to make a huge difference. And if you do end up blowing out all the hairs on that whisker biscuit, it was $35, maybe 40. So if you have to replace one every 2 or 3 years, depending on how much you shoot, who cares? It's a few dollars compared to, like quality archery designs. I've used those rests before, and they do work, and they work great, and they're nice, and yada yada yada, whatever. But that rest alone was I think $250 or $300 when you buy like a ready to hunt bow package and it comes at $600. So I mean, like, it's pretty hard to justify spending, you know, pretty well half the cost of your new bow on just the rest. When it comes to the sights, those ones, they usually have to be upgraded, not because they don't work, because they only have like 3 pins. Sometimes they come with 4, and if they come with 4, I mean, really, you should be able to make it work. For me, I always started at 20, and I go 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. But even like, there's a lot of guys that they'll buy sights with like 6 pins on it, and they go, oh, I can shoot this up to 70. Just because you can doesn't mean that you should. You know, it's the same thing with people long range hunting with rifles. You know, they look at the ballistics table and say, yeah, at, 500 yards it drops 27 inches, yada yada, whatever. That doesn't make you a long range shooter. Same thing with a bow. You know, a lot of us that aren't really into bow hunting overly too much, when you think of a 70-yard shot, that's a chip. You know, it's right there. Right? Because we're used to hunting with a rifle. Where with a bow, 20 yards is kind of like the same kind of a thing. Where it's like a 20-yard shot with a bow, that's a chip shot. You know, anybody can kind of put one in the ringer. Same thing with like a 70-yard shot with a rifle. However, when you transition from rifle hunts to bow hunting, you pull your pin up and you're at, 70 yards. That pin is only like 2 millimeters thick. But when you're on a deer at 70 yards, you're taking up like a major part of that deer. And then it's like, if you move, just the wind blows as you release, you could end up shooting them in the butt, kind of a thing. You know, like 70 yards when it comes to bow hunting, that's a long shot. And like guys can do it, and guys do it quite often, really. But those are the people that shoot like every day. They're rock solid. They paper tune their bows. They do this. They do that. Like, oh man, like they're not like me, where I shoot my bow at the beginning of the season. I go, yeah, it's still shooting good. It's still shooting straight. I can hit the target at 20, 30, 40, and 50 yards. 50 is like stretching it out there. I just don't like that far of a shot with the bow. And then, when you go out hunting, you're basically hunting within 20 to 40 yards. And I think that's the ideal spot for bows. And I think a lot of people agree with me. So when it comes to your bow sights, if you have pins for 20, 30, 40, and 50 yards, you're good. If there's something at 60 yards, the chances of you taking that shot are already slim. So I mean, if you have a pin there, you're gonna go, well, I can shoot that far, so maybe I'll try it, when really you shouldn't be trying at all. So for me, it's kind of like my own discipline almost, where it's like, if you don't have the pin, you're not going to try to make that shot, because whatever, in the heat of the moment, I might go, well, I do have a 60-yard pin, and like I've shot the target before. Whatever, close enough. I'm gonna give her a go. Without that pin, I go, well, I don't have a pin. There's no chance of me actually taking that shot. So it just kind of removes that whole conversation. But these ready to hunt packages, they come with the rest. They come with the sights. Some of them come with the little stabilizers too. And I've never used a stabilizer. I don't like the way it makes it feel real heavy and stuff. And yeah, I don't know. But like when you're looking at like Fredbear, PSE, is it Prime? What else is there? There's a few others. But they all make these packages and they all look fine. Uh, I've been looking at like Cabela's and local shops and stuff, and I'm thinking I might pull the trigger. I don't know. I got so much stuff going on this year though too, with boat projects and all that. It's kind of hard to justify buying something new, even though it is just like a few $100. But we'll see. If you guys have any recommendations on one of these bows to buy, let me know. Like I said, like I'm not much of a bow hunter. I've shot bows my whole life, and I've killed a couple of things. But to call me a bow hunter is just not right. I'm a rifle hunter that happens to shoot a bow. You know what I mean? Like I'm not in the know and all that stuff. Like when it comes to these guys that are like, in my mind, freaks of nature, where they're like measuring the weight of their arrows and this and that, and they're just like, I don't know, they take the fun out of it and they make it almost seem like a job. I'm definitely not one of those guys. I go to the bow shop, I go, what arrow do I need at what size? I like to shoot 100 grain broadheads. you know, set me up 12 of them, and then I go and I shoot. I don't weigh them. I don't, I go off the chart as to how many grams I need or whatever it's called there. It's like 350, 400, and yeah, I I'm definitely not a bow hunter. However, it is fun and it's a challenge, and it's something fun to give a try. Well, speaking about boat projects, this spring I'm gonna be taking my boat down to Kitimat, like I've said a few times there. Let the mechanic go through it, get it all running and stuff, and then I had to pretty well start equipping it with everything. And fish finders, they've been kind of coming up lately in like the hunting news kind of a thing, or the fishing news, whatever you want to call it. And you know, fish finders over the years, they went from like a black and white screen, and like they'd show a little dot here and there, and it sort of kind of showed the bottom. And then now, like even like the quote unquote like bad models these days are still like really good. Uh, and like for identifying fish and stuff, I've never thought they work that way. For me, fish finders, it shows you where the bottom is and where some structures are and stuff. Uh, but what's really making waves right now are like these live scopes, and essentially what it is, it's like I'm kind of butchering it. I don't know if it's like an extremely high frequency return or whatever it's called there for like the sonar, but instead of just seeing kind of the bottom and seeing some structures, it comes back as like an extremely clear picture. Like it's almost like having a camera down there, kind of a thing. And what's really brought it to attention to some of the people, especially down in the States, like these bass tournaments and stuff, is basically you have like the side scan and the live scope and all that stuff, but it came back so clear that it's almost like cheating. You don't just see structures, but you can see if there's a fish under that structure, kind of a thing. So I think a lot of these tournaments and stuff, they're kind of banning it now. And these live scopes too, when they first came on the market, they kind of exploded, and like everybody wanted one, and a small portion of people got one because they were so expensive too. I think it was 12 or 1400 bucks to buy one. But now it kind of died off real quick. Not only because of the price, but also because it is, in a way, kind of like cheating. Especially like how good the fish finders are now already. Like they are already phenomenal tools. But now with the live scope, it almost takes the guesswork out of it. And people that use it will probably argue against that. They'll probably say, it's just like using a regular fish finder. But they are slowly getting banned in like certain tournaments and stuff. Yeah, and I kind of agree with banning them. Fish finders in themselves, they almost need to make like rules on some of these tournaments that like how good the fish finders get. Like I don't know how you do it. Like you'd almost have to do like an equipment check and make sure you're running this model or lower, because anything above that, it's like it's almost too good. It really takes like I don't know. There's not much of a challenge. There's still a challenge, but I don't know. It's like taking a sports, enhancing drug kind of a deal. It gives you like that slight edge above everyone else. Um, Now, if everybody is using it, it's a little bit different. But then you're almost taking like, you're making it like, you're giving like the fish a disadvantage almost, So I agree with banning some of these things, and instead of just like finding structures and fishing them, or fishing docks or whatever, and like find out like where the hot spots are on the lake or on the ocean and stuff. Now like the way it's explained to me is like you can kind of come up to a dock and look and go, yeah, there's no fish here. So you move on to the next one. So then you basically only fish where there's like actual like 100% fish there. Uh, the live scopes are acting in a sense like a real fish finder, where the other ones, like I don't know, a regular fish finder is just like a depth sounder. But yeah, no, I think it's kind of like cheating, and I don't really like the live scope. It just takes the fun out of it. You know, it takes the guesswork out, and you know that's part of I don't know, part of the tradition, I guess. Even though I'm a guy that 100% uses fish finders to a certain degree. But that's also a lot like trail cameras. When trail cameras first came out, I was one of the first people to jump on board once they kind of became like the, what do you want to call it, like a consumer model. Um, I know when they first came out, it was like suitcases on trees. Uh, you seen, I think it was Bushnell when they first came out with them. Like they were, like it looked like a pelican case. But nowadays, you know, they're so sophisticated now. And like when trail cameras first came out, you know, it was like a, I don't know, it was like a shitty digital camera, in a sense. And then they went from kind of okay-ish cameras that was like 8 megapixels to now they're like 32 megapixels. Like a, Canon camera is 18 megapixels. Well, the one I had, anyways. But yeah, like they went from these giant boxes to smaller versions. The cameras got better, the batteries got better, SD cards got bigger, and then they went from a kind of pretty well blurry picture to a pretty clear picture to videos to sound. Uh, you used to be able to the night mode used to be just like a white flash. Now they're all infrared. Some of them have like the little solar panels that you can attach to them too, so you don't have to change your batteries nearly as often. And now the cellular trail cameras are out, and when the cellular ones first came out, man, they were a hit. It seemed like everybody that was using trail cameras had one, except me. Uh, I had 9 or 10 regular old trail cameras, and for me, the part of the fun was going out and checking trail cameras. To me, it was almost like, I don't know. It was almost kind of like trapping in the summer, almost. Like you go out, you set your boxes, or in this case, you go out and you set your trail cameras. Uh, you set up your bait and this and that, or you put it on trails, or you think they're gonna travel, and instead of going out and finding whatever, a martin in your box, you went out and you checked your trail cameras, and you seen that there was bears in the area, there's deer, there's moose, there's elk, whatever, and it was a blast for me. And then once the cellular cameras came out, uh, they made waves, and like instantly I didn't like them at all. Uh, just because like it wouldn't give me a reason to go to the bush. It's like I don't have to go to check my trail camera because I got all my pictures right here in my pocket. Like to me, for whatever reason, it just didn't feel right. Didn't sit well with me. But then with that too, I thought instantly that people are going to use them to. I mean, I would call it poaching, but to cheat. If you have like me, if you had like 8 or 9 trail cameras all sitting out in the bush and in trails and on fields and all that stuff, and you were hunting this little plot here, and then all of a sudden your phone goes off and says, "Hey, that deer that you're looking after, that moose or whatever, it's in this plot right over here." Well, what's going to stop you from going, well, there's still 3 hours of daylight left. Climb down out of your stand or off your whatever you're hunting and go over there where it just sent you a picture of that moose or that deer or that elk or whatever. It didn't sit well with me. I didn't like that. And now, in BC anyways, it's illegal for you to use them during hunting season. So, you know, I wonder how they go about that. I guess it'd be kind of July and August you can use them. Yeah, because bear's still open in the middle of June. And then in August, what opens up in August? Sheep. We don't have any moose anymore. I don't know. It'd be a little stingy about the months that you could use them. Uh, but essentially, like, you can still use them in BC, but during hunting season, I would assume like September, October, November, you cannot use them at all because of that reason, because people were doing what I kind of thought people would do. And it's one of those things too where it's like, I'm glad I didn't own any of those, because for me, like, if I'm being honest here, like, we're all humans, and if I was sitting in one spot and my phone went off and said, hey, that deer is over here, I would use that to my advantage, and I would 100%, I would go over to where that deer actually is. You know that if you sit here, the deer's not coming in, because you know for sure that he's over here. I would be the person to pack up my stuff and go over there and, potentially shoot that deer. You know what I mean? And like, at the time, it wouldn't be illegal. It was like just morally and like ethically wrong in my mind. So yeah, it's kind of like the bow sights. You just take that whole conversation out of the picture. If you don't have it, you can't justify it or whatever. You just take the temptation away before it even becomes a thing. And I think that became illegal. Well, it's been a few years now, and I'm all for it. I don't know what it's like in other provinces. Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, or whatever. I don't hunt in those provinces, so I really don't care about their uh, rules and laws and stuff, because I'm not there. I'm focusing on BC, because that's where I hunt and all that good stuff, right? But yeah, it would be nice to see that becoming illegal kind of Canada wide. I mean, like, I know for sure that people are using them to essentially poach. It's not quite the same as having like a live feed, but it's pretty close. Like, as soon as it takes a picture, either that or make it where it delays by like 3 days or something like that, or a 24-hour delay that it can't send you pictures, or something. Then I could see using it during the hunting season. Uh, you know, if it did just like a big photo dump every 72 hours or whatever, then I could get behind using them during the hunting season. But that'd be a weird thing to get past. Yeah, you have to go from like whatever the government level all the way down to like the manufacturers, and like there'd be just some weird things going on to get that through. But oh well, it is what it is. It would be pretty neat to see if they were able to change it to where, some different rules and regulations or whatever, to make it so it can only send you pictures during certain times, or something like that. Because like there's a lot of people that have spent a ton of money on those cameras, and now they're essentially illegal, which that part sucks. But using them to essentially poach, that also sucks. So I mean, there's got to be some common ground somewhere. But anyways, yeah, if there's ever an update on that kind of stuff, I'll definitely let you guys know. Or if there has been and I'm just blind about it, I try to keep up to some of these things, but you know whatever. It is what it is. I'm human. I miss a ton of stuff. Well, you guys, I hope you enjoyed that podcast. If you did, make sure to hit that like button down the bottom. If you're just listening to this, maybe run over to our YouTube channel and subscribe to the channel there. You can also watch the video version. Here in a couple of days, we're also going to be packing up our stuff, and we're heading to the coast for about 2 weeks. We're going to be doing a whole pile of fishing down there. We're going to be looking pretty well going after anything that's edible. Basically, uni, crab, oysters, mussels, fish, kelp, whatever. It's going to be a real fun time, and we're doing it on a budget. We're going down there with the tent, cots, and the dogs, and we're basically just going to go on our own little fishing adventure. But anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Definitely subscribe if you're wanting to see our upcoming fishing trip here. And, well, we'll see you on the next one.